Hello and a very warm welcome to this edition of Business at 9. I'm Vikram Oza with all the big business buzzing news stories that we've been tracking. Up front, this is about the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He has condemned the International Criminal Court's prosecutor Karim Khan for seeking arrest warrants for him alongside the leaders of Hamas. But what can the ICC do over this alleged war crime in the Gaza conflict? Just listen in to what the Israeli Prime Minister has said in response to this matter. First, listen to it.
The outrageous decision by the ICC prosecutor, Karim Khan, to seek arrest warrants against the democratically elected leaders of Israel is a moral outrage of historic proportions. It will cast an everlasting mark of shame on the international court. Israel is waging a just war against Hamas, a genocidal terrorist organization that perpetrated the worst attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Hamas massacred 1,200 Jews, raped Jewish women, burned Jewish babies, took hundreds hostage. Now, in the face of these horrors, Mr. Khan creates a twisted and false moral equivalence between the leaders of Israel and the henchmen of Hamas. This is like creating a moral equivalence after September 11th between President Bush and Osama bin Laden, or during World War II between FDR and Hitler. What a travesty of justice, what a disgrace. The prosecutor's absurd charges against me and Israel's defense minister are merely...
Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, is sounding outraged and he says it's a travesty of justice. Let's get perspective on this from Senior Advocate in the Supreme Court, Sanjay Hegde, joining us on Business at 9. Mr. Hegde, pleasure having you with us this evening. To help us understand the significance of these arrest warrants that have been sought by the International Criminal Court, as much for Hamas as the Prime Minister of Israel.
Well, these are for different crimes, and the prosecutor has sought warrants. Just because the prosecutor has sought warrants does not mean that they will automatically be granted. They will go before the judges of the International Criminal Court. And if 3 judges approve the issuance of warrants, then further proceedings can take place. The ICC was created by a treaty in 2002, and this is the first time it has taken significant action against a country which is known to be allied to the West. Often ICC prosecutions have been against the global south, against countries in Africa and things like that. This is the first time that it has, after about 22 years, that it has had an international impact, as it were. Just before this, last year, there was also the issuance of a warrant against President Putin of Russia. That was the other a big action that the ICC has taken. So we have a organization that is now showing that it has teeth and can bite.
Ability that these arrest warrants, like you said, that they are being sought, but whether or not they are granted is a big question mark. Also, the fact that there is some sense of parity being drawn upon when it comes to Hamas and Israel. That in itself has significance, doesn't it, for the ongoing war that now Israel finds itself in against Hamas?
Well, obviously, if you go to war against a state or against non-state actors, ultimately you are still bound by the laws of war. And you are responsible if you go beyond the normal humanitarian law and the laws of war. So Hamas may have the leaders of Hamas may have created separate crimes, but the response itself, or of possibly starving out entire populations, would go against international conventions. So these are separate prosecutions, and they may have arisen out of a common cause, out of a common series of events. But equivalence, those who want to draw it will draw it, those who don't want to draw it may not draw it.
So in terms of legal action against perpetrators of war crimes, how is that likely to play out, if at all? Going by past precedents, how exactly in this particular matter, if it does go through and arrest warrants do go through, As far as international community acting through the International Criminal Court, what is the course of action that we can expect here?
See, not every country is a signatory to the treaty. There are countries which have signed the treaty but then not ratified it. There are countries which have signed it and then said that no, we take back our signatures and all that. But a vast majority of countries have, especially South America, South Africa, and various countries in Europe. Now, if any of these people against whom a warrant is issued happens to be in any country which is a state party to the treaty, then that country is under an obligation to arrest the person and hand them over to the prosecutors. When a warrant was issued against President Putin, for instance, you remember that he did not attend a particular conference which was being held in South Africa, because South Africa was a party to the ICC, whereas other places which are not, then there are no actions that the prosecutors can take.
Right. So when you talk about international humanitarian law, Mr. Hegde, as far as the signatories are concerned to follow this kind of law, you mentioned in particular Putin's case. But when you talk about Israel, we are talking about state actors. When you talk about Hamas, not quite so. How does it work in that case?
No, you need not be a state. That is, you need not be a country to come under the jurisdiction of the ICC. You are individuals. You are prosecuted as an individual. So there have been African warlords, for instance, who have been prosecuted and sentenced by the ICC. So the head of Hamas, Sinwar, and another gentleman from the Hamas side, warrants have been sought. Equally, on the Israeli side, the Prime Minister and the Defense Minister, warrants have been sought. Again, I say the same thing, that there may not be equivalence, though everything has come from the same original set of circumstances.
Mr. Hegde, in trying to find a resolution at this point in time to an ongoing war, do you see this particular matter having any bearing on being able to control an ongoing conflict?
Especially countries which are parties to the treaty, they will be obliged to enforce the treaty. So they obviously cannot receive these gentlemen if in case there is a warrant issued for their arrest. For instance, the France today has made a very strong statement saying that the ICC is seeking of warrants is justified. There is no doubt a certain pressure which is effected by even the thought that warrants have been contemplated or by the ICC or being sought by its prosecutor.
Well, as far as this matter is concerned, we'll have to wait and watch for further developments, because like you correctly pointing out again, that this is something that is sought, arrest warrants. The equivalence is something that is going to be tested over a period of time if it does come to that. But it's an interesting turn of events, and what the Prime Minister himself has said as far as his defense is concerned on the action that Israel has taken against Hamas, that in itself makes it the big story of the day. Thank you very much for joining us in helping us understand this matter, Mr. Hegde. Thanks indeed.
Thank you.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.